Well, Demario, what does this latest award mean to you?
Man, it's a tremendous honor. I think anytime you get a recognition of this stature, it takes you back to your why. And for me, my why will always be centered around my faith. I think we're called to take the gospel to the ends of the earth. And I'm so grateful to this organization because of the platform that I have here. I'm able to do that. I'm able to have an intense local impact with partners like the 18th Ward. I'm able to have a national impact with partners like Stand Together. And because of like the Saints and our game, I'm able to have a worldwide impact with trips like going to Paris. And it's a tremendous honor to be able to get this award, but to be able to live out your why just is so rewarding. I'm very grateful to our game. This award is the highest honor that you can receive in our game. I think it speaks to the person is named after, Walter Payton. He was a tremendous player on the field, and our game will always be around the product that's on the field. But even more important is the impact that we're able to have in the communities that we serve. And that's why I'm proud of our game. And this award embodies everything that our game is about. When you look around the 32 guys who are highlighted for this award, the first thing that's going to speak is their product on the field. These guys are elite players, most of them top of their position or top 5 of their position, and so their product on the field speaks first. But then even more, the impact that they're having off the field is either equivalent or greater than what they're doing on the field, and that's what our game is about.
What's forgive me for not knowing, but were you always involved in the community in like New York and Cleveland, or was there something about New Orleans coming here that made you want to get involved?
So I became a lot more community oriented in college, where my life changed. Once I gave my life to Christ, it became more about living for something that was greater than myself. I had always been about the glory that I could get on the field. And once my life changed, it became, how can I serve, or how can I use the platform to impact the locker room? How can I use the game to impact the community? So that changed in college, and so of course that went with me when I was drafted to New York, and it went with me in Cleveland. And I got a chance to form a lot of relationships and do some great work. I think what's unique about getting a chance to serve here in New Orleans is it's one of the most unique cities in the country, but the amount of pride that's here in the city. And serve is such an easy place to serve because there's a need like there is everywhere, but the heart and the willingness for people to come alongside you and serve, and the gratitude that they have for you wanting to reach out. My wife and I, we go all throughout the city, and the amount of thank yous that we hear, and people aren't saying thank you for what you do on the field. They say thank you for what you do in the community. And that gratitude makes it easy to serve. That's not why you do it. You're not doing it to hear a thank you, but that gratitude just doing something for you. It gives you an extra boost. It lets you know that your work isn't being taken for granted, and people see it and they appreciate it. But also the willingness to come alongside you.
Hey, Demario, I know you and Cam as well. I mean, y'all won't be playing football forever. How important is it for like some of these younger guys to kind of, that y'all pass the torch to those guys, and like, what is it going to take to find the next Demario from Cam Jordan?
Man, I think, Cam Jordan is the right name. You talk about the embodiment of serving. I think he represents it as high as anyone. So anyone coming into the Saints locker room, I don't think there's a greater epitome of what that looks like than Cam Jordan. Every Tuesday since he's been in the league, he's used that to go and serve this city. He's gone to schools, hospitals, everywhere. Every Tuesday that he has off, he's been out in the city. And so I think for our young guys, and having generational impact is what it's about. I was grateful to be able to bring some of the young linebackers, Jalen Ford and Isaiah Stalbird. They were able to come over to one of the projects we did with the 18th Ward, and to see that generational impact. They were pouring into the coaches that are going to go and talk to the youth in the city and coach the youth in the city. And so to see me being in year 14 pouring to two guys that are in their second year, and to see them pouring into some coaches who are a little bit younger than them, and then those coaches to be able to pour into to kids, it was just amazing to see that generational impact. And as I kind of stepped back in that moment, it was like, this is what it's about.
My first thought is just so deserving. I can't think of a bigger ambassador for our team, for this club, the city, the state, and me just coming in here and learning what he's done over the course of his entire time here in New Orleans has been humbling to see him give that much. And I see it on display. I'll be at the FNA Friday, flag football game, and I'll see Demario there watching his kids play and just seeing the whole field. There's like 9 or 10 fields gravitate towards him. And anywhere we go on game day, or, we've gone to Orange County for training camp, his reputation precedes him. And so I was able to observe it from afar, when I was the head coach, and certainly being younger in the league. And, he's as good as it gets, and he's what the league is about. And I think he's what that award is about. He's just a pro's pro. I think he's one of one. He's part of that rarefied era of just special player. I mean, special player. And also off the field, just special person, leader, affecting so many people, affecting so many things. And, the league is so fortunate to have an ambassador like him.
Terrell not playing in 2024, what made you guys want to see what he had left back in the spring? And is there any part of you that just went back to the initial evaluation when you first drafted him, years ago?
Yeah.
That kind of
Definitely. What you just said is what we did. And, when we drafted him, we had a real vision for what he was going to become. And I think that he definitely lived up to that. I mean, he was starting in 6DB defenses on the #1 defense in the NFL. And when he got hurt, I mean, that was a tough thing for us because he was playing really, really well. And so there was a big future ahead of him there. And, and then I left, to go to the Chargers. And, what happened to him is what happens sometimes in the NFL is he got some injuries and just kind of, got lost there a little bit and then had to go play on a bunch of other teams. But, I know the player that we evaluated coming out, and sometimes you just need a second chance at it, and go into the right fit. And I think this team, our organization, starting with Mickey and, Jeff and that staff with the personnel department, I think that they felt good about him, what they knew about him going to other places. And then I certainly gave him my perspective. And when he came in here, he was hungry, he was humble, and he's performed exactly like he did back then. And so we're glad we have him.
One of his strengths, I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
Size, speed, all that stuff there. Otherwise, it's not a second pick, but you see good out of that.
Absolutely. I think being the environment that he came from with Coach Saban, he was trained really well. I know that Nick really trusted him to the fullest. I mean, he started as a freshman in a very pro-style defense, and one of the top comments that came out of Nick's mouth was his ability to operate the complexity of the tools that DBs have to work with when you're operating stacks, bunches, motion adjustments. He said that Kool-Aid's going to be able to do that at a top level, and I think that he's put that on display in his first 2 years as a pro. And as a play caller and as a defense, when you can have your corners operate like that, with that level of trust, it allows you to have more layers in your defense. And so from a scheme perspective, I think he allows us to play more things. And then his concept recognition is I think outstanding for a corner, which is going to get him closer to more plays. So we're glad we have him, and he's playing better and better as the season goes on.
Yeah, on the other side, have you seen Quincy's ball skills play out at this level that you kind of envisioned?
Yeah, in that same way, for sure. We felt like he had some of the top ball skills at corner last year in the draft, and our personnel people did a great job of painting him in the draft. And then we, as coaching staff, taking a look at all his all-star game stuff, all his personal workout stuff. We went to see him live. And so I think that we really felt strongly about him. And then in training camp, as you guys saw, he made a bunch of plays during training camp right off the get-go that I thought validated that, sort of belief. And then since he's gotten into the fire as a starter for us, I think he's put it on display too. So I thought that play against Miami was that was a quality catch there by him. And, and again, he's improved from a fundamental standpoint, from a technique standpoint. He's playing with more confidence, and usually with more confidence comes more playmaking.
With a guy like Julian Blackmon, and there's so much excitement to finally get him on your team and everything, and with him on injured reserve, just how do you go forward kind of maximizing any opportunities that you do get with him in case there is an interest in the relationship continuing in 2026?
Yeah, I think the training camp aspect in that first game week, we built a really, cool foundation with him that he knows. I mean, he's got enough experience now. He's gone through free agency a couple different times. I think he knows what's out there. And, these guys are always going to do what's best for them. But I think they know that we're a quality option. And I think that he knows that, he was headed towards a big season. I think the way that he played in that first game, it was such a quality performance. And, and I think that, he knows how that felt and he knows how that looked. And, certainly there's a lot of time between now and, that decision. But I think that he also saw our organization, what it means to be a Saint, and seeing, our ownership and the personnel department, playing for Kellen as well. So, I'm glad we got him.
I know we've asked you about Isaiah Stalbird's increased playing time, but is that role you have him in a role that you were looking to fill in your defense, or you kind of created it to use his ability?
That's a great question. I think we just created it. I think what you're trying to do is maximize everybody on the roster and create a role for them, regardless of the position, that you think that they can fulfill and that can help your defense. And we felt like on third down, we were looking for some speed. We were looking for some pass rush ability that could really, I think, give us another dimension, give us some hybrid quality. And he's such a dynamic athlete. We felt like it would pair well with the other guys that we had, and certainly on third down, that's such a key down. It's an important down, and we felt like his skill set really fit. But there's other examples too of our defense that I think have given someone that's maybe it's a small role, but it's an important one. Maybe not in the same way of a third down. It could be for a run stopping play. Could be kind of like what Chris Rump does for us at times. I think that's what playing team defense is about. And I think, again, when I talk about the depth, you need it for matchups and you need it for attrition, in a long season.
What's kind of the relationship in that room amongst the players?
Yeah, so you have Demario, and then there's a gap. And in terms of space and time and experience. And then you have Pete, who has got a ton of experience, who started and played a ton of games, and then you've got a bunch of young guys. And so those two guys have really led the way, and then you've got this eager group of guys behind them, Stutzman, Jalen and Isaiah, who are learning to be just like those guys. And I think I've seen the impact those two have made on their professionalism and their ability to improve, knowing that they were in that same spot once. Demario was a backup linebacker once, Pete was a backup linebacker once. And, showing these guys what it takes to eventually become, somebody that can be depended on, to start and play meaningful minutes in this league. So I think Pete Sermon and Adam Gristic have done a great job with that group. And I think their play, speaks for itself in terms of the development and then the overall production.
7 out of last game, the team hasn't hit 90 yards rushing. Is there anything that is just like kind of consistently sticking out as why y'all aren't getting where y'all want to be?
Yeah, I wish we could say it's one thing.
Right.
I think it's a combination of many things. And obviously, the stat you bring up is a stat that we're well aware of, and we know that it's a point of emphasis for us. And, anytime in this league, if you become one-dimensional, it's very difficult to win. So establishing the running game is a big deal for us. Obviously, we've had some issues, some challenges up front at times. Maybe we haven't hit the right hole with the back at times. The scheme hasn't been exactly what we wanted from a coaching standpoint. So we've all taken our turns. It's something that we've got to get better at. Simple as that.
What do you make of Tyler's ability making plays out of structure and the balance of also wanting to create in structure and kind of rhythm and timing?
Yeah, there's a fine line when you play the position, really fine line. And, obviously in order to be successful playing the position in this league, you have to extend plays. And it puts extreme amount of pressure on the defense. Different players create pressure in different ways. Some players leave the pocket early and they create scramble ops and they're out in space and they're basically a running element threat while they're passing. Other guys, the more pocket style passers, usually the guys that are really good, buy time within the pocket. It's subtle movement that you sometimes don't necessarily see, but if you're in the game, you're like, wow, he just bought him half-man move and bought himself a whole, half of a second more, which is a big deal. So it's a big part of it. Tyler's still learning those type of things, and it takes reps in a live NFL pocket to develop that. The pocket structure in college is a lot different than our pocket structure.
How'd you think Charlie did last week?
I thought he did a really good job. He took advantage of his opportunity. He had one kick that he was able to make, which was big for us, and then he hit a really good ball on the onside kick. So I'm proud of him. I'm excited for him. And as I told him, there was a whole lot of intrigue, and especially, the Ireland, all that sort of stuff. And all that was neat and great. And, really that part, I had a talk with him yesterday, that's over. We had a chance to go and enjoy that, but now we're on to Tampa, we're on to his next kick, and he just got to stay humble, stay hungry, and keep developing and going and do a good job that way for us.
Did you feel like you had maybe one of the better punting performances this past weekend that you've had over the course of the year?
Yeah, listen, I thought Kai, he did a good job for us. Directional was good. We still are working to try to improve a couple of them. Like the first one wasn't exactly where we wanted, but his hang time was really good. And then a couple of the other directions were good. And we're still trying to get his hang time to improve a little bit. But I thought that he performed well, and I really thought that our coverage did a really good job. Specifically, Ike and Mike, our two gunners, both really performed well and covered for him. So I thought that was a combination of everything that we're trying to do, put it together. And again, we're just trying to grow every week. And I think he bounced back in a good way, because I didn't think he punted the ball well the game before that, and he came back and punted much better for us.
What was kind of the deciding factor for why you guys went Charlie over Cade versus something you saw throughout the week?
It was, yeah. I thought how Charlie in the competition performed well. And then when he came out on Thursday, he was kind of locked in and hit the ball and focused, what we've been hoping to see from him for a long time. And then that doesn't mean that Cade didn't do a good job. I just think that Charlie showed that he was ready for the moment of how he handled everything, was locked in and focused, and we wanted to give him the opportunity to go with it. And so, we got to continue to go make kicks, right? And so as I told him, this week was practice day, kick, and then get the opportunity in pregame warm up, and let's just go one at a time and not let anything else, no other distractions or anything like that.
How big of a factor, if at all, was Charlie's experience with Zach and Kai, and how long would that kind of take to get up to speed?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that did play into a factor a little bit as well of at least myself feeling comfortable with the operation. The one thing that is different, right? You asked about the op times. We want to keep those the same, but the one thing that's different is each kicker, as he walks it off, and then as he gets set, and then, they'll kind of give a nod to the holder to let them know that they're ready. And the holder having different kickers and the timing of it for the snapper, that does play a role. I think the first time that occurred for when Cade was here was on Thursday, right? So, since then we've gotten him some other opportunities. We get the live operation, which, you probably do that 2 or 3 times, and then they feel for each other and they're in a good spot.